Shannon Minter is a human resources professional with nearly 25 years of experience. She has a background in facilitating classes and workshops for staff development and has a strong educational foundation, holding a bachelor's degree in business administration from USC's Marshall School of Business and a master's degree in leadership and management from the University of Laverne. Shannon has been recognized as a role model and mentor in her field. She has managed employee growth and succession planning initiatives while at Riverside Superior Court and played a role in supporting the UC Path rollout at UCR. Currently, she is part of the total compensation team in Central HR at UC Riverside. Shannon is known for her analytical abilities, intelligence, work ethic, positive attitude, presentation skills, and leadership qualities. Shannon, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Today, we are going to be talking about handling change in an ever-changing world. Change is inevitable, both in our personal lives and our professional environments. Today, we'll delve into understanding the stages of change, our reactions to it, and most importantly, how to effectively manage change. I think before I get started, I also want to thank everyone for allowing me to be part of the UCR 2024 staff conference. And I want to thank all of you for joining in on this presentation this morning. As I go through this, I don't have any polls or anything, but I will ask for you to put comments into the chat box, give me a thumbs up, or occasionally just type in your responses if you feel comfortable doing that. But with that being said, I will go on to my next slide. So these are the topics that I want to address today. Like I said, we'll be, I think I'll repeat myself just a little bit here since I'm going into this slide, but we'll be talking about how change is inevitable in both our personal and professional lives. We'll be discussing the consequences of changing and not changing, and then examining some strategies for making change successful. So first, I want to talk about the causes of change. There are 4 causes of change: social, economic, political, and technological. And all of them impact change and how we feel that in our lives. Change within our organizations are often connected to these different things in the world. So let's dive deeper into each of these. So with social changes, with society, this is dynamic and constantly evolving, driven by cultural shifts, demographic changes, and evolving social norms. These can be influenced by consumer behavior, workplace demographics, and social expectations. When we get into politics, this is very personal for a lot of people, whether it's at the local, national, or even international level. It can have significant impacts on our organization. Changes in government policies, regulations, or geopolitical tensions can impact industries, markets, and operating environments. And I think we see that every day in our workplaces, how if we look at the social and political side of things, we see people who are protesting the war in Israel right now, in Gaza, and how that's both a social and a political, depending on where you stand, and how that makes you feel with change. Then we get to the economy. Interest rates, budgets, how fast the GDP is growing, market trends, all of these things impact a change. I know locally, especially because I'm part of Total Comp, the number one question I've been getting from everyone is, well, are we getting a raise this year? What is our across the board change? I have no idea right now. It's not something that I have control over, but that's something that everybody looks forward to because they look at that as a vital part of their position here at UCR. And probably one thing that really does impact us most of all in our day-to-day jobs is technology. Technology happens so fast. We see unprecedented changes. At UCR, we see Impact 23. We see people switching from Outlook over to Google Docs and how that impacts their day-to-day work. We need, to be successful with change, we need to embrace those technologies and also to be able to leverage and drive that innovation to make sure that we're maintaining a competitiveness in today's digital world. So I think before we really get started and delve into this, we need to define what change is. So according to Merriam-Webster, change is defined as a transition from one state to another. Through my studies, I found that I really like the William Bridges transition model because it helps us understand what those transitions are. So the William Bridges transition model has three parts: endings, the neutral zone, and new beginnings. Um, Endings, this stage involves letting go of the old ways, structures, and identities associated with what we're currently doing. Endings can be marked with emotions, denial, resistance, anger, even sadness, because we're not doing anything that way anymore. It's important during the stage for leaders to provide support, communication about the reasons for the change and help individuals recognize the need to move forward. The neutral zone is the next part of this model. After the old ways have been left behind, there's always this period of uncertainty and ambiguity. This is the neutral zone, where individuals may feel disoriented or confused as they navigate the gap between the old and the new. You think about this time period as experimentation, exploration, and adaptation as individuals begin to explore new possibilities with ways to work. And leaders can support individuals in this stage by encouraging creativity, providing resources and training, and fostering a sense of community and collaboration. Once we move out of the neutral zone, we move into what we call new beginnings. This is the final stage. This is where individual contributors, you and I, and the organization, UCR in the state, start to embrace the new way of operating, a new identity for the change. There can be a sense of renewal, energy, and commitment as individuals begin to see the benefits to the change. I know as people went through Impact 23, they didn't see that. They didn't see the reason for it up front. They just saw that it was something very different. When people are switching from Outlook to Google, they might not see the benefit of it, but ultimately the organization has a purpose for that. And it's essential for leaders to reinforce that vision for the future, to celebrate successes, and to continue to provide support and resources to sustain that change momentum. So before I move away from the William Briggs model, what questions do you have? Or are there any questions, Sarah?
Nothing in the Q&A or chat yet.
Okay, thank you so much. And we will move on. So as we move forward with change, there's some key points that I'd like to discuss. First of all, there is no set length of time required. Change transitions do not adhere to a fixed timeline, even if leadership puts one in place. They might say this is going to take 3 weeks, this is going to take 90 days. And that's something that is a goal for the organization to stick to, but the duration of the stage can widely vary depending on the nature of the change. There's individual differences and external factors influencing this transition process. While some transitions may progress relatively quickly, others linger. People have a lot of questions. They're not buying into why the change needs to occur. It's important to recognize that the pace of each change is fluid and allow for individuals to have the time and the space they need to navigate each stage effectively. We need to recognize that individuals move through these stages at different speeds. Every individual is unique, and the speed at which they progress can differ. Factors such as their personality, past experiences. Did they have a very bad experience with change in the past? If so, they may be very standoffish about this one. Coping mechanisms. How can we support people through these changes? Well, some people adapt quickly to change and embrace new beginnings. Others may have to process their emotions and overcome the resistance before they can acclimate to a new reality. It's essential to acknowledge and respect these differences, providing personalized support and encouragement to facilitate each individual's journey through this change. We also need to recognize that change occurs even if it's something we don't want. Sometimes we want change, sometimes we don't want change, but change is a part of our daily lives. Whether it's voluntary or involuntary, whether it's desired, anticipated, when change occurs, people experience a range of emotions, challenges, and they need that assistance to navigate through this process. Embracing change involves not only embracing the new opportunities that bring, but acknowledging and addressing the loss, the uncertainty, and the disruption that change brings. And we also need to realize that, going back to that William Bridges model, that sometimes the third stage will not be completed. It's important to recognize that not all transitions follow that linear trajectory. I went to Shauna's class yesterday on change, and she had this great graph where we see like this hockey stick graph that shows this is how we want change to go. And then we saw those pits and lines and circles about how change really doesn't occur in that method. And I thought, if there was going to be a slide I was going to borrow from her, that would be it, because change doesn't happen in a linear fashion. We have people who may be coming or going in the organization at that time, which impacts that change. There's those external factors. If we go back to 2020, we all had to change. We had no control over it. COVID was there, which put in unexpected obstacles. However, we still had to move forward and get to our end goals. There was still work to be done. There were still customers to serve. There were still students to support. And it's essential to provide that ongoing support, reassessment, looking back at what we're doing and find out if we're doing it correctly, and then adapt to facilitate that forward movement and eventual resolution of that change. So on my next slide, I'm going to discuss 4 different responses to change. And I'd be really curious if you guys can just, if you feel comfortable enough as I discuss these, for you to tell me which one of these you feel most like. So we have victim mode, critic mode, bystander mode, and navigator mode. With the victim mode, people feel powerless. They feel like, why is this happening to me? Why are the tools that I need to be successful changing? They can feel overwhelmed, resentful, and defeated, viewing change as something that's imposed on them without their consent or input. This mindset can lead to feelings of helplessness and resistance, and it can hinder their ability to thrive in the face of change. The critic is where people approach change with skepticism and doubt, focusing on past failures and shortcomings. Maybe they were part of change in the past and something went wrong. Payroll didn't make it on time. The time cards didn't go right because they changed the new system. Something happened where it wasn't successful in their eyes. And so critics will resist change because of repeated past mistakes that may not even be related to what the current change is. The critical mindset in the critic mode can stifle innovation, progress, and individuals are reluctant to embrace new ideas or approaches because they feel more comfortable with familiar routines and methods. In the bystander mode, individuals take a very, if I ignore this, this will go away, a very passive, they may feel indifferent or apathetic towards change. The avoidance behavior can prolong that transition. They're just watching to see what everyone else is doing and just kind of hoping that, somehow they'll either figure it out or it will go away. And this can ultimately impede the organizational growth and adaptation. When you're a bystander, you're not actively engaging in the learning around the change. Is there a new skill set I need to learn? Is there a new computer program? Bystanders are like, I'm just going to see what happens, and um, and we'll go from there. And then finally, we have the navigator mode. This person wants to see things better. The navigator embraces change as an opportunity for growth and improvement. They have that proactive mindset. Navigators are willing to adapt and innovate, and explore new possibilities, recognizing that change is inevitable and an integral part of the organization. This mindset fosters resiliency, agility, and creativity, enabling individuals to effectively navigate through these transitions. So I'm curious where you guys see yourself in any of these responses to change. In my career, I know at different points in time, I've been all four of these. And hopefully this morning, I can give you a couple tools to hopefully move you to the more positive one for you. I'm curious, what are we seeing in chat there, Sarah?
Well, we got a mix here.
Okay.
Combination of critic and victim modes. Definitely a navigator, but likely because I work in IT. Depends on the change. Sometimes I'm all on board for navigator. Sometimes I'm just in bystander mode. Navigator
Well,
at work.
I like that people are mixing these together. It's not something that I addressed, but I think you can be both a victim and a critic. You can be a bystander and a navigator. Um, it's just a matter of how you're adapting to that work in front of you. And I do think that somebody said that, I'm a navigator at work. Well, maybe at home you're a bystander. So I'm not saying as you go through change, it's always going to be consistent in the way you respond. And it could be depending on the different project you're on. If you're very confident in it, if in IT you've been through a change like this before and you saw that successful planning, made things possible, then you might want to get out of that bystander mode when other people are doing things and actually step up to that navigator mode. For the victim mode, why is this happening to me? That's the one I really want to move people out of, because it's happening to everyone when you're talking about victims, and that perception that you're powerless. If we're going through a successful change, I believe that people around you should be providing you with the tools and the training to be successful. And if not, then I would encourage you to use your voice and speak up and ask. The critic mode in this response is, well, this hasn't worked before. And I can see where critic and victim mode work hand in hand. But if you say, I don't want to be a victim, and instead of being a critic, I'm going to be that voice that says, I don't understand. I don't want to be a victim. I want to be successful as part of this change. Then that mindset where you're thinking, I'm helpless and I'm going to be resistant to the change, you can turn that into, where can I be helpful? Where can I help other people overcome that resistance? And so just looking for positive ways that we can take it out of those different modes. I mean, I would love to say that 100% I'm a navigator, but I know I'm not. I'm human. I resist change all the time, whether it's in my personal life or at work. It's just a matter of where are you at in the process and what can you do to make this change the best possible for you. So now I want to talk about some of the common reasons that people resist change. The loss of control. Change brings uncertainty. So I recently came back to UCR. I've been here for about a year. The first time I was here, I actually worked on rolling out the UC Path project. So going from the old payroll system to the new payroll system. And I think that one of the number one things that I talked to people about in that time period was the loss of control. They knew in the old payroll system how to do things. And by moving to the new payroll system, they had that perceived loss of control, that sense of familiarity. If there was an issue, they knew how to overcome it. They knew what codes to put in. And in the new system, they had to figure that out. And maybe it doesn't work the exact same way. If you're moving from Outlook to Google, Maybe you don't know how to use Google Sheets as competently as you did Excel. What are you going to do to help change that? So when you feel like you've lost something, um, that's a lot of times the reason that people resist that change. Also, not being involved in the planning. When you feel excluded from the process, you may resist change. Also, if you're not involved actively in the planning, but you have people communicating with you on a regular basis, that can be a way to help overcome that resistance. But if you are told, this is how we're going to do it, we're going to start in 2 weeks, go, you don't feel like there's that buy-in that you need to be successful in the change. This can breed mistrust and opposition among the different stakeholders. Like the current situation, you have a preference for the way you're currently doing things. You really like Excel. You've been using it for 15 years. You know all the ins and outs, and you don't know if Google Sheets can do those same things. There's that fear of the unknown, worrying that the new way of doing things is going to disrupt how you've done it before. It disrupts that status quo. And I just remember I had a person who was over the organization I worked at. And the one thing that we kind of had a mantra for the organization for a few years. And Inga would say, the status quo is not an option. We're not going to do things this way just because we've always done them that way. And I think that's a great way to look at change. However, it does create uncertainty in people. They like that comfort. You know, every day you wake up, you brush your teeth, you feed your dogs, you drive to work, you're used to this routine, and then something changes and it, messes with how you start your day. And you like the way things are currently going. And that's a huge reason that people will resist change. Another one is they don't understand the reason for change. That lack of clarity. Individuals may fail to grasp the reasons for the change. Is it necessary? Um, has everything been effectively communicated? Have our leaders been transparent as they can be to make sure they're addressing misconceptions? They're building buy-in and finding ways to mitigate that resistance. So if you understand the reason for the change, you may be willing to change. But if you don't have that buy-in, if you don't know why something's happening, then that creates that resistance. Next, too much uncertainty. You don't know how to navigate the new terrain. You don't know how to grapple with new challenges, roles, or expectations. This can lead to feelings of anxiety, insecurity, and resistance. Ways to overcome this are to provide clear goals, timelines, and support mechanisms, which can help people, those individual contributors, feel more confident and capable in managing that change effectively. Another reason that people resist change is that fear of failure. All of us are here at work and we want success. We want success in our personal lives, but while we're at work, we want to be successful because that's what helps build our career. We build on these successes, and change requires us stepping into the unknown. It can trigger that fear of failure, and we may think about something else that didn't work in the past. And as people who are leading the change, we realize that the fear of failure can cause paralysis in individuals, leading them to resist change, which I think goes right into past resentment. Negative experiences with change, even if you didn't fail, maybe things were broken, maybe there were unresolved conflicts. You have that distrust because in the past things didn't go so well. Addressing these past resentments and rebuilding trust can help with these past resentments. People also conceive change as a threat. It's a departure from the familiar, and it can be a threat to someone's status, security, or identity in their job. I've always done it this way. I'm known for doing A, B, C, D at work. And now you're taking away A, B, and all I have left is C and D, and I don't know what comes next. So you see that threat of something being taken from you. And that creates that anxiety, defensiveness, resistance that we want when people are trying to change. And what does this all lead to? Upset with that power balance and disrupts relationships. Change can disrupt everything. There's people who benefit from change, but when we alter power balances or change authority, people might not know who to go to ask questions. They may feel loyalty to one side or another. And depending on where you're at in this, people can resist change in order to preserve social connections or their status within an organization. And we also have the values violations. Resistance can stem from personal or organizational values. Maybe the change that they want or they're asking violates your personal values. For example, here at UCR, we refer to people by their chosen name. And whether your religious, political, or other beliefs, that's how we do it. And that may be something that really makes you want to resist that change because you don't see the value in that. So I'm curious, what questions do you have so far or comments?
So Shannon, one question in the chat. Where does change fatigue fall in these reasons? I feel like we get a lot of change fatigue on our campus.
Where does change fatigue fall? I think for me, when I look at change, I look at kind of like those past resentments. We look at everything that's happened with change, and it's happened so many times, and whether what happened in the past was successful, maybe it happens too often. I know I get fatigued when it's always, well, this is the new way of doing things. And then 3 weeks later, we're like, oh, we have a better way. Here's a new process map. Oh, we've updated the process map. Oh, we forgot this step. Oh, yeah, by the way, we made this change and now you've all been doing it this way. Oh, we forgot to have you click this box. And so now you have to go back and correct it. I think that change fatigue happens when, one, the people who are designing the change aren't going back and looking for ways to correct that. I know if I'm going through change and we're still in those early days and somebody goes, we found an error, let's correct this now. Then we can all get on board and that train can move forward. But if you're moving along and everything's finalized and then you have to go back and then everything's finalized a second time and then you have to go back and everything's finalized a third time, you don't believe them the third time. And so you just want to throw your hands up in the air like you just don't care. I was going to say it because you're tired of we got it. We hear what you're saying. We're going to fix it. And then you don't. And then that's when, if I go back a screen, if I go back to the responses to change, all of a sudden I'm a critic. Change fatigue. You know what? This hasn't worked. I don't think it's going to work now. You've corrected it a few times. Maybe I'll move up to bystander. You know what? This didn't work. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to go back to the old policy. And then if anybody says anything, I'm going to say, this is the way we've always done it. And when you go through those steps, it is daunting. At the end of your workday, you turn your computer off, you slam your screen shut, and you just walk away. So hopefully that answered your question. Get back to my slides. Let's see. Okay. Yes. So I think that as you talk about change fatigue, this is a great screen because there are really two types of resistance to change. We have the passive resistance where people cross their arms. They're like, whatever. Their behaviors, their actions, they'll avoid things. They won't talk in meetings. Um, they'll delay actually providing um, uh, feedback. They're just going to be like, I'm going to see what's going on, hands off. There's that complacency. They want to maintain that status quo I was talking. They don't want to invest any energy because they truly believe it's either going away, we're going to just throw away this change. They're going to see that the way we've been doing it forever works. Oh, sorry about that. I hit the wrong button there. And then we have the active, where this person is openly criticizing and expressing dissatisfaction with the way this process is going. They're pointing out every single solitary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 perceived flaws, risk. If they see something wrong with change, they're going to point it out. They're going to be confrontational. They're going to rally support amongst people they think are on their side. You know, hey, Jane Doe, come over with me. I know you like to do this. They may even sabotage the change, and it may not be 100% deliberate, but they just don't believe that the change is going to be successful. And so they listen to things like rumors. They may deliberately um, misinterpret instructions, and um, they're just actively showing that resistance. And understanding the distinction between that passive and that active resistance is essential for change agents and organizational leaders um, to detect. We need to know where the people are at. We need to identify the signs of resistance and adopt appropriate strategies. We need to have an organization that can foster that cultural openness and collaboration, um, so we can have that successful implementation of our change initiatives. So I want to talk to you now about the benefits of supporting change. Um, Increased job satisfaction. Of course, if you support that change, there's a good chance that the reason the change was put in place is because there's something that's not working in your job. And um, involving the people whose job it is in that process, in that decision making, providing the training and resources so that they can adapt, can boost the person's morale and overall job satisfaction. Improving job security, embracing change can help organizations stay competitive and relevant in dynamic markets. I mean, we see it all the time. We're trying to hire the best possible people, and you go to hire someone and there's another organization that wants them. If we can have a positive environment for people, if they can come in and see that they can actually assist with change, that they can support initiatives, that they can bring innovations that they know in the workforce to UCR, that they can bring innovations and adaptations, if they can share trends with us, it's just going to help their overall job security because they can see themselves positioned for long-term success. It moves down to enhance respect and reputation. Organizations that effectively manage change demonstrate that agility, let me say that word again, agility, responsiveness, and a commitment to continuous improvement. This can actually enhance people wanting to work within the organization. This can include employees, customers, possible donors to the university, the broader community, because they can see the respect and reputation is constantly growing. It can improve growth opportunities. Change brings about new opportunities, whether it is we need different IT people, we need people to be the facilitators of that change. We need people who now understand a new way to do things because things are outdated, whether it's through changes in legislation. But employees who embrace that change can demonstrate that adaptability, pardon me, or more likely be considered for leadership roles and positions or for special assignments. So the more you can actually evolve to that change, can help enhance career growth. And I did mention this briefly for a moment, increase customer satisfaction. And here at UCR, we have to look at who are our customers. We're looking at people who work with us, outside vendors, but our students. Anything that we can do to make the organization smoother impacts our students, who are our customers. We need to listen to what employees are saying, because that helps increase that customer satisfaction. You know, we want to make sure that the students are able to get out of UCR in hopefully 4 years. But overall, supporting change in an organization facilitates chances just to have that positive work environment. It promotes organizational resilience and drives long-term success. So there are 4 phases of change. The phases that marks the beginning and change process, the initiation. We also have that disorientation. In this phase, we experience confusion, uncertainty. We may not be ready to let go of the past, but we know that if we can actually reorient ourselves, that we'll gradually be able to accept those changes. We'll be able to explore new ways of work. We can seek out support for people who are able to help us achieve our goals. And finally, with integration, the final phase, this is the change process where individuals fully assimilate their routines, their behaviors, and their identities. We look at the lessons learned. We look at ways we corrected that. And hopefully we built a new cultural and organizational mindset towards that positive change. At the end of all this, we have resiliency. And resiliency is the capacity to spring back, rebound, and to successfully adapt in the face of adversity. Resiliency is indeed the ability to bounce back and adapt. It encompasses various factors, including emotional, psychological, and physical aspects that enable people, individuals, and organizations to withstand, recover from, and even grow stronger through difficult experiences. There are 4 key ways or 4 key skills that can help you through this change process. Commitment. This involves your dedication, perseverance, and consistency in pursuing goals and all of a sudden I can't talk. Just one moment. Goals and objectives. We get to connections, and this is where we build those relationships, the networks. These can be professional contacts, mentors, peers, community members, but cultivating strong connections provides benefits such as support, guidance, team building, and you can do this both personally and professionally. Communication is I look at this as one of the absolute keys for successful change. We need to be able to communicate what's wrong with change, where we see issues, and how to make it better. Communication is both verbal and nonverbal. Sometimes communication can be shown through I'm going to lean back in my chair and cross my arms, but effective communication is vital in fostering that understanding, resolving conflicts, and building trust. It helps foster collaboration in personal relationships, team dynamics, and organization context. And last, creativity. I think this is probably my favorite, just based on my personality. Creativity involves the organization or the ability to generate original ideas, solutions, and perspectives that can help move this change along. So when you see change, if you see, is there something I can help with? Can you seize that opportunity, through business, through organizations that you're part of, through speaking to someone else? Did you learn something in a class you took, in a science class, in an art class? How can we be creative in moving that change forward? Individuals can enhance their effectiveness and resilience and overall success when looking at these 4 C's. These skills not only contribute to individual growth and fulfillment, but also foster positive interactions within the organization. So to become a change agent, you need to realize that resistance is normal. Not everyone is going to have open arms. You need to keep the end in mind. Maintaining a clear vision of the desired outcome or goal is, I think, is the vision that we want people to have. We want people to see where we're going, and we want to be able to communicate that, or you can help us communicate that so we can all get to that end goal. To be a change agent, you want to seek opportunities to involve yourself, actively engage, provide input, participate whenever possible. This involves fostering ownership and accountability for your change in the process. Control your attitude, maintaining that positive, proactive attitude in the face of change. Everyone around you can see it, and it's such a positive way to assist with that change. Take ownership in the change. Take ownership in the fact that you're going to have to learn something new. This proactive approach encourages others to follow suit and actively contribute to the effort. Be tolerant of mistakes by management. They might be building a plane in midair. They might have this whole plan where it's outlined from A to Z, and they don't realize they're building a plane in midair yet. And mistakes are going to occur. Be gracious. Be willing to take a step back. I think, and understand that mistakes happen. We all make them all the time, and having grace for that. Maintain your sense of humor. There will be ups and downs during change. There'll be times where you need to find someone to talk to relieve that tension. It's okay to chuckle about something, to be like, well, that didn't work. What are we going to try next? And be open about that. I think by embracing all of these things effectively, as a change agent, you're going to begin to see that success. You're going to be able to embrace all these guidelines and cultivate that drive to success and inspire others. One thing you don't know about me, all, is I am a huge Broadway fan. I love musicals, and I bring that up because as I was going through this presentation, this quote came up to me. And if you've ever seen Hamilton, the musical, there's this wonderful line. It says, "I'm the one thing in life I can control. I'm imitable. I'm an original. I'm not falling behind or running late. I'm not standing still. I'm lying in wait." And thankfully for all of you, it took everything in my power to not sing that to you. But the thing I really like about this quote is that through all of this change, you are the one thing you can control. If you want to be successful, you need to make sure that you're staying up on your training, that you're not standing still, that you're ready for the next thing. And I was sharing this presentation with my team, and this popped into my head, and I thought, there's no way I'm not sharing this with you, because it's something that I find myself singing all the time. I'm the one thing in life I can control. And I think it also suggests a focus on my personal energy and autonomy. External circumstances may be beyond my control, but I'm going to, within my own means, handle everything that I'm capable of. Change, you have a choice. You can resist it. You can opt to resist change. You can cling to the familiar. You can avoid the new. You can follow it. You can choose to go along with the change, adapting and adjusting as necessary, or you can lead the change. You can take charge of the change and actively shape its direction and outcomes. I know a lot of you are probably familiar with or have heard the Serenity Prayer. Grant me, hold on, let's skip that one. But there's a version of the Serenity Prayer that I've heard for change, And that's grant me the serenity to accept the person I cannot change, courage to change the person I can, and the wisdom to know that person is me. And I think as we go through change every day in our lives, we need to recognize that we can be a victim or we can be a navigator. And if you want successful change, if you want to be a part of it, then I encourage you to step up and realize that when it comes to change, you're the person in control. You're the one who can really push and say that I may not like it. I'm going to find out the reasons behind it, and I'm going to do everything I can to help push its success. So, what questions do you have for me? What comments? Anything, Sarah?
We have some chats, no questions out there. If anybody
Okay.
does have any questions, make sure you get that out there.
Any comments they want to share?
Lots of loving the quotes. With change comes growth. And just lots of agreement with concepts you were bringing up throughout the presentation.
Well, that's wonderful. I thank everyone so much for taking the time to join me this morning. It looks like we'll be able to give you back the gift of a few minutes so that you can move on to your next class. So hopefully I'll see you in one of the 11 o'clock sessions. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. And thank you so much.
Thank you all for attending. Our goal is to keep this conference 100% free. So thank you to all of the sponsors, Staff Assembly, LEAD, Central HR, EOD team, and Schools First. Reminder, we are uploading recordings to the UCR Learning Management System. I did put some links in the chat. LEAD and Staff Assembly are having nominations/elections. You can sign up for the EOD listserv, and we do still have spaces available in our closing session this afternoon. If you are interested in joining us and you're on campus today, come network with us. It'll be a great time. Thank you all for coming out today.